opportunity for you to see, the first half of today is an opportunity for you to see the opportunity that awaits you here without ever having to go away. And I know some of you will. We know that's going to happen. But I just want you to know, or we want you to know, that there are lots of opportunities for success right here, literally, in your own back door, okay? So Dr. Pate is passionate about this institution, obviously. He's kind of got to be, I guess, you know, as president
it's easy to be.
And CEO, but it's like he says, it's easy to be. This is a great place to be. And Dr. Pate and his team have really opened the doors for you all with dual credit opportunities and so many opportunities for you all to get what you need, the associate's degree and even additional career training right here. And with what's coming, you all know what's coming with the Blue Oval SK and just the opportunities that surround it, plus the opportunities that we already have in so many other avenues in our community. We are set. You guys are living history, and I firmly believe that. And you guys are at a point in Hardin County's history that we'll look back on in 100 years. When I don't think I'll be here then, but maybe. But I don't think I'll be working. Maybe. But anyway, just know that you were at a point where you're going to be looked back on it and say, man, those people did this right. And it's you guys that they're going to be talking about. So, Dr. Pate is President and CEO of HCEC-TV. He's a great guy. Try to hold on to every word. He speaks really, really fast. So, he doesn't. So, but anyway, you'll find out here in a second. He's a great guy, Dr. Pate.
Thank you. I think you got a young entrepreneur and student who wants to say something here real quick first.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Guess what I am?
What? A bus driver.
Right. I am the bus driver for Fort Knox.
What?
Oh, my bad. Guess what I am?
The bus driver for Fort Knox.
Wrong. A student. I am a student here at HCEC-TV. I take automotive training. I'm learning how to fix electrical cars.
Nice.
Guess what I am? I am a business owner. I have owned a business for 30 plus years. I fix Lincolns and Jaguars only. You guys are the future. You are the future. This is important. Whatever course you decide to take, do something that you like doing. You are going to be the best at it if you do something that you like doing. Don't do something that you are dreading, because if you dread it, you will not like getting up out of the bed every morning. But if you do something that you love doing, you will excel. And we need you guys. You are the future. You are our future. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaguar. Good to see you, brother. Take care of yourself down there. See you soon. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I don't talk fast. I think what gets John is I talk a lot. And it might be why maybe he's wanting me to talk a little faster and get done a little sooner. I'm not sure, but I do appreciate you all being here, and particularly, thinking about any time that you've got a chance to think about leadership. I think that is very, very important, and don't just let it happen. My first piece of advice to you today is make intentional efforts to be a better leader. And that has nothing to do with a career track. That's not the reason that we should develop ourselves as leaders. Because your most important role forever will be as a family member. That's the one job that you will do, that your parents do, that your grandparents have done, aunts, uncles. That's the one job that you will do that they don't replace you when you're gone. I don't care what job you have. When you're gone, they'll replace you the next day. So when you think about leadership, it's not a position, it's a person. So make intentional efforts to develop yourself. That's what leadership development is. But let me kind of start here with what is leadership? That's the first thing you've got to start thinking about. What is leadership? It's a very abstract thing. You know, it's kind of like beauty or love. It's hard to define, but you know it when you see it. But if you're going to develop yourself as leaders, you really have to start thinking about what is leadership, to where you've got kind of a definition in your head. So for me, I always think of it as kind of a combination of three things. Leadership is choosing the right direction, it's aligning work with goals, and it's building influence with other people. You got to have those three elements to lead. But now let me ask you a question. What is the opposite of a leader? Anybody got any ideas? Follower. Other thoughts? What's the opposite of a leader? Selfish. That's pretty dang good right there. Other thoughts about opposites? Yes, ma'am. No, you raised your hand. I saw it. You raised your hand.
I wasn't ready.
Someone who isn't ready, great answer. Okay, so yes, all these things are right. And the one that I always think about, though, is loner. And the reason I think a loner is the direct polar opposite of a leader is no leader can lead by themselves. And there's an old proverb that states, "He who leadeth and nobody followeth is only taking a walk." It's true. You can't lead without somebody else. In fact, leadership requires three things. It requires a leader, a follower, and a situation. Without any one of those elements, leadership cannot exist. All right, leader, follower, and a situation. Something has to need to be done. But when you've got those three things, and you've got a leader who has developed herself or himself, every situation is improved. Think about the importance of that, which again is why I'm wanting you all to think about your development, not a career track development, not leadership development. Think about leader development. Who are you, and who are you going to be? That's why you invest in yourself with leadership development. You want, just by being here, I know this, you want your impact to be positive on other people. That doesn't just happen naturally. You have to work at it. So, you don't just develop leader skills. That's not what you do. You have to break leadership down into elements, is what I call them. So things like trust, communication, planning, decision making. Right? There's all these elements of leadership. And then you work on those. But you work on them through the lens of leading other people. Right? So communication, for instance. I mean, you can get a PhD in communication. And it doesn't mean you made yourself one step better as a leader. You have to think about the purpose of communication with other people. So let me hear from you. What are some elements that you think would be important to leadership? Now, she's afraid to cough. And if she does cough, she's not covering her mouth this time. Yeah, sorry, buddy, I've ruined it for you. I won't do that to you again. Yes, ma'am. Empathy. Oh, man, that's a great one. You come out the gate strong. Does everybody know what empathy is? Now, if you nod your head yes, I'm going to ask you to tell us what it is. All right. Empathy is extremely important. The ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, basically. Terribly important. What other elements? Honesty, that's huge. What are things that honesty impacts? Number one answer. Who said that? Was that you or you? I thought that was you. Number one, that trust. Trust is critical to leading other people. Integrity. All right, and if you surveyed 1,000 leaders and said, what's the most important aspect of leadership? 900 plus of them would probably say integrity. All right, and integrity is basically, who are you? People have to know that. They have to believe in that. It's not about saying the right thing. And that was one of the myths that I had. So when I was in your all's shoes, I thought the most important thing that I could do if I wanted to be a leader was hold the position of captain of the football team, or be the senior patrol leader in the Boy Scout troop. I thought the most important thing I could do was have the right position. That is not it. That's not it. The most important thing that I can do if I want to be a leader is have others recognize me as being good, as being worthy, as being trustworthy, honest. That's step one. Because I would much rather be a quality leader and not hold the position than hold the position and not be a quality leader. That's a much better situation. And you do that by focusing on you, not a position. Other elements. What else you think is important to leadership? Yes, ma'am.
Being able to delegate.
That is critical. Delegation. You've got to be able to, and the buzzword is empowerment. You empower others to do great things, give them the tools they need, but then give them the trust to go out and do it. Empowering others to do things, delegating assignments, that is key. A leader who tries to do everything themselves is just holding everybody back. Good job. Yes, ma'am.
Confidence.
Confidence. That's one of my favorites. And most people think, when I talk about confidence being important to leadership, that it's the confidence to stand in front of the crowd. That's not really it. You've got to have confidence to be a great leader. Have to. Reason being is because one of the things that you do as a leader is hire other people. Leaders who lack confidence don't hire the strongest people because they're worried they're going to outshine the leader. That confidence is key. I want to hire the best people. I want to hire people who are better than me, which Mr. Wright will tell you that's not hard to do. I still want to do it. All right? But I've got the confidence to know that my role on the team is and leader is one role on a team, but my role on the team is solid. I'm set. Now let's get the best people around so we can lift the whole organization up. Confidence is key to that. Confidence is also key for one other reason, I think. The ability to stand in front of a crowd and tell everybody I was wrong. I'm getting pretty good at that. But when a leader has enough confidence to admit when she or he is wrong, that gives the whole team a better attitude when it's time to try something new. Because people, so one that I think is in the top 5 most important aspects of a leader is the ability to lead change. All right, change is critical for the world. Everybody wants to grow. Nobody wants to change. You can't do that. The very definition of growth is change. But we know change is hard for people, particularly groups of people. But when the leader has the confidence to stand up and say, you know what, I screwed that one up. I was wrong. We're not going to continue to go down that path. Let's change direction here. I was wrong. I own it. Okay, so let's get that off the table. Now, where are we going? When everybody knows right at the onset that the leader won't make them stick with a bad decision, then it's so much easier for everybody to choose a new direction and to get on board with that, because if it doesn't work, we don't have to stick with it. Confidence is critical. Might have time for one more. Anybody got another one? Yes, sir.
Setting goals.
Goal setting. One of the most common failures in leadership, I think, is understanding the whole gamut of what it takes to set and achieve goals. So there's all these formulas out there for how to set goals. You got to have a timeline, you got to have a deadline, you got to have steps and checkpoints and all these things. But that middle thing, when I was telling you there's 3 components of leadership: choosing the right direction, aligning work with goals, and building influence with others. That whole middle part is where achievement comes in. So the ability to set appropriate goals and be able to put all the steps in place to get a team of people to achieve those goals. That's the nuts and bolts of leadership. See, I think goal setting is extremely important. That's not a bad transition here. So the last thing that I wanted to leave you all with is thinking about what goals are you setting for your development. All right. I didn't ask you what do you want to be when you grow up. I'm not talking about my goal is to be, a superintendent or a plant manager or whatever. No, that's a goal for your career. What goals are you setting for you? What are you setting that you want to be better at so that you can better lead other people? The first one that I remember setting for myself was a goal to not just be a better public speaker, but to be able to speak in front of people. Because I couldn't. I dropped public speaking twice in college without even making it through the second week either time. One time I dropped it on the first day because the instructor said, all right, as we're getting started here tonight, I'd like for everybody to come up to the front of the room, tell us your name, your program major, and what you want to get out of this class. So I just politely asked him, can I run to the restroom before we get started? Yes, sir. Go ahead. So I went to the restroom and never came back. I was out. We had to speak on day 1 right in front of everybody. That was not the class for me. So I took interpersonal communications finally. Didn't have to give any speeches in interpersonal communication. I was set until I went to my transfer school and they required public speaking. Interpersonal communications would not work. Then I get to that school and I went from a class like this at the community college I attended for public speaking to a class of 120 people for public speaking. So I decided, all right, if I'm going to do anything with a career, I'm going to have to learn how to do this. I set a goal to make that happen and started working on it. That's what you've got to do. Get down to that elemental level. Don't set a goal to be a better leader. Set a goal to take every opportunity to build trust with someone. Set a goal to be a better listener. If you want one that will apply to everybody in every room, set a goal to be a better listener. Because there's elements in listening. You break listening down to elements. So one trick to being a better listener is don't think about what you're going to say as someone else is talking. You got to train yourself to do that. Have you ever been talking to somebody and you know they're not paying attention to you? The reason is they're thinking about what they're going to say as you're talking. So don't think about what you're going to say, and count to 3 when somebody else finishes talking before you talk. That was tricky. Because everybody wants to get their point in. But if you want to be a better leader, it actually has a whole lot more to do with what you're understanding than what you're trying to say. Count to 3 after somebody finishes talking before you say a word. You'll be a better listener. I'm not sure how much time, that's probably where I should have started. John, how much time do I have here?
Sarah, I think you're good.
You, in a couple more minutes, or wrap it up.
Ms.
Sorry to go too.
Ms. Berkshire is so polite. That's her way of saying it's time for you to shut up. Let me ask you this real quick before I get out of here. How many of you have an idea, maybe not a hard set plan, but an idea that you may come here to start your post-secondary career? I see some heads, not. Dual credit?
The academy.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, sure. The one thing that I want you to do as you're transitioning from high school to full-time college, well, actually, academy kind of is full-time college, but anyway, you know what I mean. Explore as much as you can. All right? Explore as much as you can to find out what it is that you want to do. And Jaguar gave you some good advice, you know, do what you want to do. I'm going to layer something on with that. I think that's great if you can do what you want to do. But the layer that you have to put on with want is, what are you good at? Find out what you're good at. And if you do something you're good at doing, you'll find many times that you'll be happier than even doing what it is that you've got a passion for. That was the great advice when I was growing up, is follow your passion. Follow your dream. That only worked for about 5% of my classmates because they followed their passion only to find out that there was no money in it or they weren't any good at it. That's a tough way to start a career. Explore as much as you can. And here is such a good opportunity to do that. We've got so many different fields, career paths, classrooms that are representative of so many different career tracks. Take time and explore those. Find out what it is that you do like, but also find out what it is you're good at. So many people that have chosen a field called industrial maintenance. It doesn't have a very attractive title, but it's actually kind of like robotics, automation, mechatronics, those kind of things. That's what industrial maintenance is. They find out that they're actually really good at problem solving, and that's what that job entails. You have to learn a whole lot of pneumatics, hydraulics, you know, controls, electronics, all these things, but then you spend your days problem solving. That's what that field is really about. It's not about robots, it's about problem solving. Well, maybe you really enjoy and are really good at problem solving. That's where you need to kind of match yourself and career. That gives you a much better alignment. Then when you do something you're good at, you get noticed and you get opportunities to advance. That's when you start getting options. That's what happened to me. I didn't set out to be a college president. I set out to be a football coach. I was actually pretty good at coaching football, pretty good at teaching. I got opportunities to advance. Then my options opened up. So find what you're good at. Try to align yourself with a field in that profession. You'll have a lot of options. My options are out as everybody is trying to push me off the stage now, so I'm going to get out of here unless anybody has a question for me before I go.
I will just say one thing. Dr. Payne talked a lot about trust. You know, as Ford, Blue Oval SK as comes, they trust this institution enough under his leadership. They are putting they have asked HCEC-TV to place a facility on their campus, on the Blue Oval SK campus, that will train their workers. And that's because they trust not only Dr. Pate's leadership, but the leadership that's in this institution. So that's a big part of leadership. And the state, Blue Oval SK, saw that in you. So we appreciate you and what you do for our community. So.
Likewise, John, likewise. All right, listen, appreciate you all. Sarah, sorry to encroach upon your time. We'll see more of you. Take care.
Let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Sarah Berkshire. I do public relations, marketing, and recruitment here at the college. And then I'll go ahead and introduce Becca Owsley over here, if you want to wave, and Mary Donovan over here. They work on the recruitment team here at ECTC, and so once I get through these slides, they'll actually be with you walking the campus and getting the tour of the whole place. So, welcome. Okay, so you're a youth leadership class, so I'm going to talk to you in this presentation a little bit about what ECTC is all about and what we offer here, but I'm also going to give you a little bit of the perspective of how we fit into the community in terms of growth in our community, in terms of economic development, in terms of who we serve. because I think that's really important in a leadership role, is to know what's in your community, know what resources are out there, what are the organizations that you need to be aware of, that you need to network with, that you need to partner with. Partnerships are so important to everything we do here at ECTC, so we will talk about that a little bit too. All right, let me tell you a little bit about who we serve, our students. If you guys can see our county map there a little bit, these are the counties that are kind of in our official service area. About 10% of our population, or our student population, comes from outside that. But you can see Hardin County is by far the largest. I mean, it's the population center of our region, so it makes sense. That's where the greatest number of our students come from. This 90% is really important when we talk to employers and community organizations, because 90% of the students who graduate from our college, they stay here. And that's what, as a community and as a region, we want to try to do. We want our best talent not to go away to college and stay there and improve those communities. We want them here growing Elizabethtown and the greater region here, right? So it's important that while they're students here, they're finding opportunities to connect with employers and start careers here and make an impact on our community. That's kind of a snapshot of who our students are, and what their demographics are like. What are they studying? By far, our largest section in terms of program is the Associate in Arts and Associate in Science degree, which is what we call a transfer program. That's where, does anybody know what that is? I think a lot of you are probably working toward that as dual credit, right? Get the first 2 years, get your gen eds out of the way, and then go on, save a bunch of money. But then there's also our 2-year programs, Advanced Manufacturing and Trades, that's about a little more than 20%, and then Business and IT, Healthcare, Education, and Human Services. The business program, if you look at individual programs, that's kind of overall categories. If you look at individual programs, our business program is probably the most popular behind those transfer degrees. So that gives you an idea of what we teach here. And you're going to see all of these categories on your tour. But it's not just those catalog programs. This is a little bit of the community piece. ECTC provides a lot of education and training that aren't necessarily degree programs. For example, if you see our welding lab, that's a great example of one of our workforce development efforts. Metalsa, are you guys familiar with that company? It's one of the larger manufacturers in the area. They do the frames for the Ford F-150s. All of their employees do welding training here at ECTC. Another example, if you see here, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Flex Films. They, like packaging, think of how everything comes in a plastic pouch. They produce that kind of thing. They're a company based in India. When they came to Elizabethtown, ECTC instructors went overseas to train on their equipment, their processes, and provided employee training when they were ready, after the factory was built, when they were ready to bring them on. So not a degree program, but definitely getting folks in the community the skills they need to get good jobs and pay taxes. And then that picture up there in the top, that is a shot from our Greater Knox Coding Academy. Fort Knox had a great need, or their contractors up there had a great need for a specific type of coder. They came to ECTC. We developed a custom curriculum to get those job applicants ready for those jobs specifically. So that's another great example of how it's not in the college catalog, but yeah, we can do that. So now talking about those students that we serve, especially in those degree programs, why do they come to ECTC? What are we trying to offer them to keep them here in our community and help them attain their educational and career goals? Class offerings. We have about 30 different programs within those categories that I showed you. Affordable tuition, you guys probably know it's the lowest in the state. We're local, small class sizes. Dr. Pate talked about a class this size compared to more of the auditorium field class. Unmatched support in student life. There are a lot of programs and support systems on campus to make sure students are successful. You'll see more of that on your tour. So it's really split up what the program piece, the class offerings, it's kind of, we look at it as there's go to work. That means you want to come to college, you want to get your degree, and you want to get into the workforce as quickly as you can. Those technical programs may be the right thing for a person who's looking for that. Go to school. That means, I'm going to get the 4-year degree. Well, then the transfer programs might be the right option for that person. This is a listing of all of them. Becca is handing out what we call, it's called a view book. It's kind of like the core marketing material for college recruitment offices. And it gives a good overview. And so you guys can all keep those. But I think it's in the first spread, you'll see the list of the programs that we offer here. All right, we talked about affordable tuition. We're the lowest in the state. There's a spread in the book also that lists some tuition information. So it's less than half. Now this is the you've graduated from high school, you're not a dual credit student, you're a credential seeking student, what that tuition is. And this is just the tuition prices. If going away, there are, room and board fees, parking permit fees. We have someone on our team that paid $500 for a parking permit and still didn't have a place to park. So there's all kinds of costs involved in that. And we try to keep it as low as possible because student debt is a concern, right? Nobody wants to graduate college and be strapped with that kind of financial burden. But we also know that those tuition figures, that's the sticker price. A lot of folks go to college and that's not what they pay. There are scholarships, there are grants. I'm sure you guys are getting into that and learning more about those options that are for you. One that I like to talk about here is the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship. Who's heard of that? Nice. Okay. So who in here is a Kentucky resident? Every hand ought to be up. All right. Who in here is going to, in the not so distant future, be a high school graduate? Everyone. All right. That means you will qualify for the Work Ready Kentucky Scholarship if you are going into a high demand program that it covers. We have the 5 high wage, high demand sectors listed there. So advanced manufacturing, when you see some of this automation and robotics stuff, free tuition. If you go down our business and our IT, remember I told you how popular that business program is, free tuition. Construction, so our electrical technology, the welding lab you might see, healthcare. I know you guys will get to see either our nursing lab, our respiratory care lab, free tuition, and then transportation and logistics. Our visitor at the beginning, that he talked about the diesel program, we also have an automotive program here, free tuition. So there are a lot of options for folks who want to go into high-paying fields like that. Now I want to move into like a couple of the things about the community. Remember how at the beginning of the presentation I talked a little bit about keeping talent local, keeping our best and brightest here for our own community. One of the ways that we are helping in that effort is with the University Center. When you're on your tour, you might see like there's a construction project underway. It's going to be finishing up in the coming months, and it is our University Center. What that does is those schools, we don't offer bachelor's degrees. We don't. We offer certificates, diplomas, and associate degrees. Those 4-year colleges that do offer the bachelor's degrees, what the University Center is doing is bringing those partners to our campus so that folks can get the 4-year degree without leaving this area. Not everyone can move to another city to get a degree. I mean, if you guys are doing that, that's great, but I think it's important to be aware that that's not an option for everyone. Some of them have family commitments or they already have careers started here. This is a great way to help them excel and keep moving forward without having to change their residence. And then John mentioned this, so I won't go into it too much, but if you guys know, there's Blue Oval SK is coming to Glendale. It's already well under construction, 5,000 jobs coming into our community. ECTC will have a place in that. This is a rendering of what that might look like, the ECTC Blue Oval SK Training Center, which we will be breaking ground. They've broken ground on the plant we'll be breaking ground on the training center in the next couple of months. Also coming up, things that we are really excited about, the occupational and technical building. The state of Kentucky has given us green flags to do some major renovations on that. As you guys tour, you will see this building is from 1960 something, and things are not as sharp and crisp as they can be. The equipment is all top notch, but the building is just outdated, and it is not matching with what we need, what our students see out there on the employer production floors. We want to get it to that level. We're very excited that we've got the funding to do that starting very soon. Also, our Litchfield campus, you guys living in Hardin County, you're very familiar probably that Elizabethtown Community and Technical College is in Elizabethtown. But we're also in Litchfield, that's Grayson County. You might know it like from the schools and competitions. We also have one in Springfield, which is Washington County. And then we have smaller campuses on Fort Knox and in Meade County. So there are some great things coming up.
We need people to get into this field, and they're learning all sorts of things. What kind of things are they learning in here?
So lots of critical care, but then there's some basic care too, like doing some massage and percussion to the lungs to help loosen up secretions if they have lots of junk. So some of you may have asthma or heard of an asthma patient, so they take care of that kind of patient. We take care of patients that may have worked for a long time in a job that they breathed in chemicals and their lungs are scarred from that, or maybe they've smoked and that's caused them to have a lot of lung damage, so they take care of patients like that. So it could be a little patient that was born too early and their lungs aren't developed, or it could be an old person like me that just didn't take care of their lungs. They'll have an interaction with, from the very littlest, like a pound patient, so someone that can fit on a Subway bun. So everybody's familiar with a 12-inch Subway bun, so a baby that's that small, all the way to the oldest patient I've taken care of was 102, and we had him on a ventilator, and I thought he'll never make it, and the next week we took his tube out and he went home and mowed his yard. So we take care of a very wide range of patients. You're not in the same place every time you go in, so you might be, unless you work in a specialty facility, but you might be in the ER today, in a unit area tomorrow, or on the floor the third day you walk in. So you never know where you are. So if you're a person that likes to not know what's going to happen, so if you're a thrill seeker, this is the job for you. It's always something different. Okay. You may have questions.
Can you do you have to go, do you necessarily have to go get education somewhere else for nursing stuff, or could you just go straight to the field?
This is just respiratory, not nursing.
Okay.
Yeah, we just take care of your lungs. We work with the nurses and we work with the doctors, but so our job is just lungs. So you go to school the same amount of time that the nurses do, but you just focus on lungs and heart, lungs and heart.
If you get grossed out, don't look here to the right to all her pieces. But she can actually give birth and help people that are studying nursing. I'll let you come on in and get a look at her. The baby is also a robot that they can take readings from, and they can go through complications that the nurses have to deal with. And these are great tools to help them to learn how to do these things before going out, and working on actual humans. This is Apollo. So what happens is you see there was a room in between these two testing rooms, and they have computers and things they can monitor, so they can program in things. He can have a heart attack, all different things that can happen that you have to respond to. They can make him talk. I believe they can make Victoria talk as well. And oh, did you see him blinking? Is he breathing too? Yeah, I thought they had them turned on in for us, so they can. So they can sit in there and program him and make him respond to a variety of things. And so if you're in here working on him, you have to respond to what's happening to him. The same with Victoria. If you're interested in, he said, business, a lot of our business classes, human services, and that sort of thing are in this building. Down that hallway is our Student Success Hub. So if you need help with tutoring, our Family Scholar House is in there, which is a great program that we have here now that helps you with not just your academic needs, but your everyday needs as well. So if a student loses their transportation and can't get to school, they'll find somebody to help that. If you find that you're having difficulty finding food for your family and your student here, we have that there. Just any need that a student may have, we try to help with, not just academically, but the student as a whole person. So a lot of that is down that hallway, and now we're going to head this way and kind of overview some of the buildings up here. So this is our science building. The biology and chemistry labs are in there. We have an auditorium where, I don't know if you know the Hardin County Playhouse, they do productions there. The oldest building is the J.S. Owen building here at the top. He was our first president of the college. Remember that? It might be a quiz later. So that was the first building, and the technical building will go in later. It was the second building. Everything in between has been built since then. This is the university center she was talking about that we're currently under construction. It will house the student center, but that's also where we're going to partner with four-year colleges that will come bring some of their programs and their classes on this campus. So with certain colleges and certain programs, you have the possibility of doing all of your schooling here in E-Town. The classes that you have to, like English, math, those classes everybody has to take, a lot of those still have an online option, but also have an on-campus option. A lot of the programs are more in-person because there's technical skills that you have to learn. But if it's a computer-based program, they're offered, you can get your whole degree online with some of those. It just depends on your program and what you're studying. But a lot of those general requirements that you have to take, whether you're going here or going to a four-year college, there are online options for those as well, which a lot of our students that commute from other counties take advantage of those as well because they're not having to come on campus every day. The campus sits on 65 acres. We have a lot of space to continue to build and grow. I think that also gives a great college feel. Some people look at a community college and they don't think college. It's a college just like any other college. And this is a cool new thing that we have. These are solar tables. So if like your laptop needs to be charged, your phone needs to be charged, you just want to sit and work out here, there's charging units for that. Owen building that's named after the college's first president, the oldest building on campus. And in here you'll have a lot of your arts and humanities classes, like your English and different things like that. And our education classes are also up here. So we'll go through this real quick and head to the library where we head back down and see some of the stuff in the technical
Now,
area.
are some of you already in the academy in this building here?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're probably more familiar with this one. Okay, let's go this way. This is kind of buildings in like a square. Morrison Gallery, some of y'all may have walked past that and wondered, what is that when you were up here? In this, we have a lot of art exhibits from time to time, musical performances. Some of them are really cool if you get a chance to stop by and see them. It's just a place in the county that people can display some of their art and some of the things they do like that. Some of them are touring exhibits. Some of them are local. It's a variety. Early childhood education classes. It's like the coolest preschool room you've ever been in with all the fun toys and tools. But that's where those classes are, a lot of the education classes. So this is the bookstore. I'll say it again. This is where you can get anything from your books for class, ECTC wear, gifts. There's a variety of things in there. Snacks. I go in there for snacks a lot. But there's a variety of things that you can get in there for your academic needs. He is going to take you through some of the advanced manufacturing things here in the hallway and do some illustrations of some things.
So I'm the Advanced Manufacturing Coordinator here at ECTC, and basically I'm just trying to help you all understand what manufacturing is and let you see what we have here. So that being said, this is the basic electricity room. They teach you everything from AC, DC. So basic electricity, they just teach you starting out resistors, capacitors, what that means, what they do, AC, DC, voltage, current, resistance, everything like that. So that's the start out. So anything to do with power, lights, anything running. Has to do with the electrical technology and industrial maintenance. There's a bunch of different tracks in that. Most of it's turning more to automation for the reasons in here. So this is motor controls 2. It's the more advanced. You have 1, you learn about PLCs, which is just how to program this. Why it's important in industry is because everything that comes from your phone, microchips, your shirts, everything is made in industry, so it all has to do with this. So, for instance, this demonstration. This is multi-platforms, PLCs 2. They teach you how to program this right over there in that lab, or in that classroom. But in motor controls 2, which is this room, once you learn how to program and everything like that, follow me this way, please. What they do is they teach you how to wire this, set it up, program it, which is actually over here on the computer screen, if you want to look around. Every 3 seconds, it'll kick out a puck. Then it goes down here to, pretty cool, huh? Photo eye. Then it stops and does its work. Now, in industry, where I was, New Flyer, we actually had this set up for doing sheets of metal. And it would go several of these, I don't remember the exact number, but they would go, pick it up, slide it over to where it would be dropped into a machine that would cut out pieces of metal. Now, but they teach you, you start out right here, and then you end up wiring this whole thing all the way over to the solenoids and beyond. So it's just more of the basics. In industry, the only difference really is it's a lot bigger. That's it. Okay, follow me this way. I'm going to show you the fluid power where you learn about pneumatics, hydraulics. That's what they used in there for the little puck. That's how it kept it up, was air, pneumatics. And there's pneumatics, and that's where they teach you how to do all the valves and everything. This is robotics. So it's where they teach you how to program all your robotic arms. And this actually over here came from Tulsa. They donated it so we could show you students how more of industry is moving towards more of an automated stance where it does all the welding. So this is the Vex robotics we have here. So this is actually a competition. The exact rules and everything I'm not aware of, but they build their own robots and small circuit boards and everything. We're gonna head in here to the coolest program on campus. So, cool HVAC, feel free to go touch and just don't stick your tongue on it. Yeah. So condensation builds up because the pipe's really cold. It's same piping they use in air conditioning. And like your AC units, they'll build up like that, and they have to go through a heating cycle to make sure it doesn't freeze up. So in here, they'll teach you everything about how to plumb it and heat, cool, troubleshooting. All of these classes teach you troubleshooting skills. So, but yeah, so gas, it's actually an ice cream machine behind you, all works. So.
I'm Professor Waite. I teach engineering and electronics technology. You already been in the robots lab. All right. So in here, you saw the robots along the wall. Did you talk about VEX?
You know way more about it than I do.
So we also have a VEX Robotics Club, and they competed yesterday up in Sandusky, Ohio. They took fourth. We compete against schools like Purdue, Worcester Polytech from Massachusetts was there. Trying to think some of the other schools that were up there. But we took fourth in the tournament out of 13 teams, which is about where we usually go. We've had some good years where we took third in the world, and that's competing down, this year it's going to be down in Dallas. And so we take field trips to places like Sandusky, Ohio yesterday, which actually was hosted at the Kalahari Water Park. So it's one of those indoor water parks. So it was a great time that they had up there. We also will be competing in Purdue end of this month. And then, like I said, we'll go to Worlds in Dallas, where we compete against schools from all around the world, university level schools. The year before COVID, we took third in the world. Last year, we were one of the top 25. Not our best showing, obviously, but we have a great program here. Any questions? Do y'all know what VEX is? Yeah. Build it, program it, drive it, think strategically about the competition. And that's what companies are looking for in the engineering world. All right? So, any questions? All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your tour.
So, this is welding. They teach everything from torch to MIG, TIG, stick. They also have a plasma table set up here, which cuts out pretty much whatever you want, but like in Halloween, they'll do little pumpkins out of metal. They can pass them out. They also do Hogwarts, which is over there in the window. So.
And Sarah said you on the presentation, this is one of the areas where we have a lot of industries in the community come in and do additional training as well.
Yes, Matas actually has their own booth set up right over here, and they partner with us, and whenever they get finished with whatever they've been welding, if they have some extras or whatever, they actually just let us use it. So that's pretty cool.
There's not really a whole lot to see on campus because what they do is on farms. So they do a lot of their labs out in fields with animals, small farms. You know, farm industry is growing not just from your typical farmer that you see out in the field, but there's a lot of micro farms where they specialize in different things and tourist things, and they learn anything from the applications of actual farming to farm management, and they have an animal science track. But all we have to show you on campus is the classroom. Most of what they do is out in the fields and stuff like that. There's a fully stocked kitchen back there that they learn for culinary, and Monday through Thursday, most weeks, they do serve a lunch that's cheaper than going to a fast food restaurant and much better food. Like you can get pork tenderloin with sweet potato souffle or nice desserts, all sorts of stuff. So not only are they learning the skills for culinary in a variety of tracks, they're also, it's a good support for students and staff and faculty who want to come here and get a good lunch. So that's available as well.
Our CAD department is computer aided drafting and design. Anybody that likes designing anything.
So this is CAD, computer-aided design, computer-aided drafting. You can call it a lot of different things. So we basically solve problems, and we do it with different things. Whether it's designing something up and 3D printing it, like this is from the hospital. They wanted us. This is an X-ray machine case for like a dental X-ray. I think it was like a mobile station, so like they take it to the emergency room, or if they may take it to a room or whatever, they could check somebody, mouth area out a little easier. Whoever their certification people said that this was a little too ugly, and they're like, hey, can you fix it? So it took me about 5 tries, me and one of my students, and between the two of us, we came up, I think this was like number 1 or number 2, And then, of course, the fifth one is on the machine. So it's all about solving problems and making stuff in the process, which is kind of the fun part of it. Sometimes it's frustrating, but it's fun. Like solving a problem. I need something to put these on. What do? You take a little round disc, you take a little pillar, put a little curvy thing on there, and then boom, you got something to hold your headphones. So just simple things like that. One of my students came up with this mouse holder. She said, when you're drawing here, you want to get the mouse out of the way, but so when we do hand drawing, so we use hand tools, and you guys are welcome to walk over here, come on. But we use hand tools like triangles and T-square or drafting machine, and draw things up by hand, and then we move on to the computer. So when they're not using the computer, if they're just doing this, and they've got their tools and stuff out, then you can put that up there in the little mouse holder there, and it gets it out of the way. It was a great idea, and she came up with it on her own. She was like, you really, and of course she's my age, so she's practical things like, hey, that probably worked. So anyway, and she's actually now working as an engineer. It's an engineering position, and she got this degree and then the engineering technology management one from Western, which is a bachelor's. And actually now she's working on a full engineering degree, I think. So, but she is working as an engineer. Now some companies, they want you to have the basic mechanical engineering degree. Some of them don't. This degree is a really good step in that direction. And you can make good money at just with this degree. I have lots of students that work over at Altech. They make bucket trucks. You even kind of get to go up in the bucket truck once you design it, which is kind of cool, which I think is a little perk, but hey. You get to test stuff out that you make. Why not? That's the whole point of, designing stuff and problem solving. So you don't have to be a mathematician to do this stuff. The computer does a lot of it. I mean, we do some basic math, add, subtract, maybe know a few decimals here and there. We do a few fractions occasionally, which fractions ooh, fractions, no. Well, go to culinary. You're going to be doing fractions there. But anyway. Main thing is whether you do something like this, or you want to do culinary, you want to do automotive, whatever. It doesn't matter. Find something you're interested in. So we do lots of different things. Of course, the 3D printing stuff and scanning, this was a brass elephant that we scanned. That's one of the projects that we do in the 3D printing class, is bring in something you want to scan. So she brought in this little brass elephant, and I've actually made 3 different, I printed it regular size, this size, and I made a big white one, which my pastor took for his white, elephant gift, because he thought it was funny. I thought it was funny too. I'm like, well, yeah, sure, here you go. So, lost that one to that. And then people like to, let me find my hand. Where'd the hand go? Oh, I've lost the hand, darn it. I've got an articulating hand also that, it's actually a practical, they came up with it to help people that, have, messed up hands, or maybe they weren't born without a hand, or not a complete hand, or whatever. Well, a father went and bought a 3D printer. I think maybe he was an engineer, maybe he wasn't. He designed a hand so that she could wear a different color every day if she wanted to. Helps out. So you don't, because kids are mean. Mm-hmm. They are. They can't help it. It's just human nature to, pick on people, or not meaning to pick on people. And I'm good at laying stuff down and losing it. So, oh well. It'll show up when you guys leave. It's about the way it works. So do you guys have any questions? So somebody asked me last time, what's the coolest thing you've ever printed? I don't know. There's lots. Nah, don't blow it. Just not. The last group. This is an Aztec death whistle, so it sounds like somebody screaming. he thought it'd be funny to blow one and scare the crap out of people. It worked. So, forewarned. So if you hear something go, and we haven't quite got the size right. I've got one that's tiny, but it's like you can almost stick it in your mouth. It's kind of too small for. And this one you kind of have to be Hercules with a big breath to get it to do something. So trying to find the right mix, because what they would do, the Aztecs, they had these little, I don't know if they are real skulls or monkey skulls or what.
They made them of clay.
Clay.
Yeah.
Because see, it's got this little chamber in here. See, think about it. Somebody had to come up with this. Make it look like a skull, make it look all scary, and then when you blow it, it sounds scary, because what's the worst thing that could happen in the middle of the night? You know, you're in your bed, you're all nice and comfy in your village, and then all of a sudden this noise shows up all the way around you. Yeah, that's not good. This is going to scare you to death, right? That was the point. So that's why the Aztecs were some pretty mean guys, I guess. But anyway, so we thought it'd be funny to put googly eyes in there, you know, break up the tension a little bit. If you know anything about comic books, I thought it'd be funny to make a Red Skull version. Yeah, go along for Captain America. And with the eyes in it, it does kind of look like him. Yeah. We've done other stuff like, it may sound like you're just doing fun things, but you know, yes, we did print a Iron Man mask, and I have the whole suit we could print. It might take a little bit, but I could do it. That took 96 hours to print, so some things take longer than others. We've done a Mandalorian helmet. Guy wanted to do for, you know, cosplay kind of stuff. And he also wanted a, I don't know if a white knight or it's one of those Templar knights. It's got the cross on it for the opening. It's kind of neat. So there's lots of neat things you can make and you can do. Like, we do different things in here. We do that. We design, you can design houses, like things that you might do in this job. You might do details like this, where you've got wall sections or wall framing plans. There's a 3D version of it to kind of give you an idea what it looks like. There, you know, I had a whole bunch of other stuff I was going to hang up. I mean, airplanes, somebody has to design those. Everything around here, this building, this monitor right here, the mouse, this box, somebody had to design it. Mm-hmm. And your clothes, I mean, that's a little different, but still, same idea. You have to draw them out. Sometimes you draw them out by hand, which obviously clothes you're probably going to, because that's a little bit more artsy. And I just call this precise art because, you know, whether you're designing a cool stapler, everybody likes a stapler now, right? Well, I mean, you need it. Everybody needs a stapler occasionally, although now we don't use very as much paper, but still. But you know, there's always some little problem that needs to be solved. You know, whether it's something to hold your headphones or the mouse, or something to mount a backup camera in your vehicle, so that it, you know, doesn't fall off and you have to drill holes in your dash or anything like that. So I did that for my son's truck because, you know, I like a challenge.
Thank you, Mr. W.
Yeah.
Computerized manufacturing machining. So basically they take blocks of metal or whatever material, subtract parts of it to make different things. That's the short condensed version. This is the lab area. It's lathes and different machines that do stuff for us. Operators in the industrial environment actually put pieces of metal in the machine and produce different things and more.
Are they like golds?
So they start off with blocks of just, I don't think it's plastic, but I don't remember what exactly it is. It might be soap, actually. I'm not sure, but it's save money in case students mess up. It's a lot cheaper for the school and everybody to do that before you start making gears or wheel spindle. So aluminum manufacturing environment, which is really taking off right now with Louisville down the road and just so many more companies coming around the community. And it's the greatest time to be in it because you start making, what, $20, and that's when they first get you a job, which is like within the first semester you start working or start doing school. So towards the end, the way I've been told is if within, what, first 2 years you're not making 100,000, you're doing something wrong. So just tidbits like that.
It's mainly just a classroom. In this, they also have a couple labs in the back where they can do some crime scene staging. They have, I think, where they can actually do some firearms stuff back in there too. There's usually, yeah, he's back in the corner. One of the things they use I usually walk in and he's sitting somewhere different and it scares me. But this is where you can study criminal justice if you want to go that route. It's a pretty popular program here as well, where they work on anything from big machinery, agriculture, a variety of different things. This is a very popular program that we have here. They come here from all over, and it's a pretty highly ranked program in the nation. And they get to work on, the actual trucks and things. There's also some, the word I'm thinking of, simulator, that's not the right word, but where you can run through some different problems with a car and try to fix it on those as well. But yeah, everybody needs this department in their life because everybody has a car and there's always some kind of problem with it, or people who do construction or truck driving. They always need somebody who knows how to operate and fix, that's to troubleshoot and fix that sort of thing. There's bays all down this hallway similar to that one that they work on our auto diesel program.
We're going to let these folks introduce themselves and tell what school they represent, or what school in which they work, and then we'll just kind of open the floor for questions. Okay?
All right. Tim Isaacs, Principal, Central Hardin High School.
Dan Robbins, Principal here at EC3.
Dan Mahone, Assistant Principal, North Hardin.
Teddy Wilkerson, Assistant Principal, John Hardin.
Terry Morgan, Superintendent at Hardin County School.
Kelly Bush, Superintendent of Elizabethtown Independent Schools.
I have to say, I need you all back there.
Hello, Stacy Lamoureux, Principal at Fort Knox Middle High School.
Thad Elmore, Principal, Elizabethtown High School.
All right, does anybody want to start?
The phone policy. Like why is it so strict compared to last year? But then why did y'all ease up on the dress code but go hard on phones?
All right, so can you repeat that again? Because I heard several questions there. So we'll take them one at a time.
So how did y'all, why did you guys ease up on the dress code but go stricter on phones?
Okay, so there was no relationship between the cell phone policy and the dress code. And we'll start off with the dress code because the dress code was made above school. It was an above school level decision. As you may or may not know, many of the things that we do at Dodea, at a Dodea school, are made outside of the school. That we're one Dodea. We always say one Dodea. So a lot of these decisions are made at a HQ level, the headquarters level. So our dress code was changed from headquarters, so that came down from HQ. So we didn't really have any input in that. And they decided, with much input and data from the stakeholders, that they wanted to relax the dress code. So that's where that decision came from. The cell phone policy decision was made at the school level. So what we did is, based off of some of the situations that we had going on at the school, we noticed that there was a trend that many times when you go in the classrooms, students, instead of being engaged in learning, they were engaged on their cell phones. And so people were meeting up in different places. They were texting each other in the bathrooms, this, that, and the other, which oftentimes led to disciplinary issues. And we felt as a school, and to extend out to the community, because we involved our stakeholders in this as well, that it was inhibiting the educational process at school. So we weighed out the pros and the cons. We determined that it was creating more of a hindrance than it was adding to the education or the experience, the school experience of our students. So that's where the cell phone policy came from.
May I ask a question in reverse?
Sure.
What is your cell phone policy?
We can't have our phones like after the bell, like after the first bell. There's like no phones until lunch. Yeah, you can't have your phone until lunch, and then after lunch you have to put it away until the end of the day.
Awesome. Unless, let me clarify. Now, we do allow situations in which if it is requested by a teacher for educational purposes, we do offer those opportunities as well. So can I ask a question as well? Do you adhere to our cell phone policy?
Sometimes.
Ah.
Most of the time.
That was a great question.
I didn't want to lie.
Okay, let me, I'm going to take make an authoritative decision. So I'm going to kind of set the tone, okay? So I'm going to ask a question, because I don't want you to grill I don't want you to put your principal or your superintendent on the grill. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not what leaders do. Remember Dr. Payne talked about that today. Building trust, leading by example. Would you appreciate being on the grill? I guess is what I'm saying. No, you would not. So I'm not going to, especially Mrs. Morgan says she's my boss, I'm not going to put her on the grill.
Bring it on.
Yeah. But anyway, we can start with Mr. Elmore and go down the line here. What are some major factors that you look at when making decisions? Some common themes, guys, when you look that you look at in making some decisions that are based, that you make either at your school or at the district level. What are some things that you consider some pretty universal themes?
I mean, I think safety for students first and foremost. As you talked about, we too had some issues with texting and Snapchat and all the other stuff I don't fully understand. And so it helps eliminate some of that. So you really look at the safety, I guess, would be one thing. Another thing I'm big on is opportunities for kids and students. And how can we provide the best opportunities for kids? That's just two right off the bat. So I'm sure everybody else has others.
So definitely safety first and foremost, and really looking at the quality of the education and, instruction in the classroom. And anything that adds to or takes away from that definitely impacts our decision-making process. But one of the things that I think is really important that I've tried to do, and this was included in our cell phone policy as well, is really include the voice of the community and the stakeholders, the parents. And one of the things, and I would love for you guys to be a part of this as well at our school, is really involving students in some of that decision-making process also, which it sounds like you guys might be interested in being a part of that.
I'm just going to share one, and it really comes from what do I feel is my core value or my core purpose as a leader of a district, and that is with any decision, and particularly the difficult ones, is coming back to which solution or what decision here is going to be the best for the students as a whole. And as anything that's not black or white, that is always gray, and because you have to consider how this affects teachers, how this affects parents, how this affects the community, how it affects the safety, taking all that in, but always coming back to that core value is how is this going to best serve the interest of the students. So.
There was a poster in my classroom for many years that says, what's right is not always popular, and what's popular is not always right. So I try to keep the most difficult decisions in what's right, not what's popular, but what's right for our students, what is right for them in the long term, which is the reason I wanted to ask about the cell phone policy there. So we really try to look at what's in the best interest of students from preschool, cradle school, all the way to after high school. and what will give you the most opportunities when you walk out of our doors into the rest of your life. What's going to help propel you to be the most successful person you can be?
Well, as John Hardin students can tell you, we have to be intentional, right? You know, we want to be intentional in what we're doing, make sure that there's a reason for what we're doing. We're not just doing it to do it. We put an emphasis on that. And then we also, as Coach Wells will tell, above the line. We want, you know, if this is good to get by, if this is getting by, we want to go a step above that, you know, and stay above that line, never fall below that line. And that's in all areas, if it's safety, if it's the policies we make, however we're doing it, that's what we like to do.
Try to look at things from a perspective on how it's going to affect the educational process. And to piggyback off what Ms. Morgan said, sometimes what's fun isn't always what's best for students, right? Sometimes what's super easy and convenient isn't what is always great for the educational process. So sometimes we have to put things in place to help you all. So that's how we kind of try to look at things.
Yeah, I think everyone has kind of said a lot of the big things what Ms. Bush said. I mean, it's one of my core values as well as, you know, what's in the best interest of students. And then I always try to take it a step to where if there's an opportunity and what the decision is, if there are student input that should be valued, then obviously I try to go to it. I think that you all, as being the stakeholders of some of these decisions and the effects of it, I like to know what you have to say about it. And doesn't always mean it's going to change it, but I do like to always know what your input is.
I would agree with what I've heard. I think one of the things I say a lot to students is it's not my job to make you happy. It's my job to make you successful, and they're not always the same thing. But students should be at the center of every decision that you make. One of the things, additionally, I like as we look at it from our district is, and this building's had a lot to do with it, is we've also tried to align where we can and make sure that we learn from each other. So I talk a lot to Mr. Mason and Mr. Wells, and we bounce things off each other all the time. What's working here, what's working there, and try to be as consistent as we can and learn from each other.
Okay, now that we've set the tone for questions.
I understand Odia is like, there are so many decisions made above you. My mom's an Odia teacher, well, not currently, she was. And my dad's very involved with the school board. So I understand that funding for a lot of stuff does not come from you. It comes from your boss's 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 boss. But I would like to see more staff participation in school clubs and events. We don't have an orchestra at our school, and I play viola, which is like a figure violin. So I was a little disappointed when I moved here because I really wanted to further my career in that. And so this year I tried bringing an honors music society here, and I was shot down because of funding. But it was also that they wouldn't allow a music club to, like, at all. And I feel like our school would benefit from having more extracurricular activities that aren't sports or GRTC.
And that's that way, I mean, you probably, any person here would hear that question, right? Or
yes.
Could be asked that question.
Is it a question? What's the question?
It was just a comment, like.
Okay.
Well,
I was like, for the question.
I'll just say that because, I mean, we often have that happen here at EC3 just because of how different we are from a lot of the schools. And, you know, students might say, well, you know, I want to be here, but because of my day and the time, I can't participate in this club at my home high school, so what do we do? And so my, reply back to our students is always, with any club, and I know it's got to be the same exact way probably at Fort Knox High School, is you have to have an adult sponsor. So there has to be an adult sponsor. So I tell our students, if you can get an adult in this building to sponsor that, and there is not some type of legal issue as far as having, like we can't have, for instance, a National Honor Society here, but then there's one at the home high school, you can't have that conflicting, then let's find a way to make it happen. But it does start with having at least an adult that is willing to do that. And as you know, like, we as leaders of our buildings, we can't force our teachers into doing any of those type of things. We hope that they would love to be involved in an extracurricular capacity, but we don't always know what they have going outside of their, job with us. So,
Ms. Fox, you got a question?
What's something that you as administrators see now that worries you for the future, and how do you plan on handling that?
Mental health. What we've learned from the pandemic is the illness itself wasn't really a danger to you all. What was a danger was the isolation and the social emotional damage it did. And we're picking up those pieces. But it's also shined a light on some things that were probably existing long before COVID became a thing, that we, for whatever reason, we weren't necessarily seeing or having the ability to address. And so as we move forward, there has to be a strong focus on what we're doing with the social emotional side of what's going on.
I'll kind of piggyback off that, something similar. One thing that I worry about is the social media, just the constant on the phone or on a device. I see so many, and not just teenagers, but people who are in their 20s. They struggle with having face-to-face conversations. They struggle with picking up the phone and calling to make an appointment, because their world and their interactions with their friends and a lot of people has been on that device rather than face-to-face. So that's something I worry about moving forward, because the human interaction is an important piece to the mental health. And so that's why I said I'm gonna, jump off of that. So what I see moving forward, I think the second part of your question is what do you see that we could do about that? I think that's where it's important for us in education as administrators to look at how can we balance that. How can we balance that and be sure that we are providing opportunities for our students to be on devices and do work in that way, because that's the world that you're going into. That's where so much of your work and careers are going to be. But also, what can we do to structure for every kid in classrooms the ability to cooperate and really guide in how do you interact with others. That's most likely not something that you all face because you've been chosen as leaders. And so that's something that probably you already have a good handle on, but a lot of your peers don't. And so that's something I just worry about for just society in the future moving forward, is that human interaction and that contact and ability to really have those interactions with each other.
So I'm going to kind of piggyback off what she said, because I agree with social media, and you're spot on with definitely the social emotional component. But I think too that goes much deeper with regards to how social media is being used, both sometimes inside the classroom as well as outside the classroom. And unfortunately, things that happen outside of the classroom, especially at Fort Knox, leaks into the classroom, and things like TikTok. Just the impact that social media has on just students in general. I find it really scary how some of the things that we see on TikTok videos, YouTube maybe, I don't know, that are mimicked and brought into the classroom, whether it's jokes that are out there or challenges, but that's just becoming more prevalent, as well as platforms in which you guys communicate with each other, and just some of those communications and just the ability that you have, and how things that we saw probably when we were in school it's just exponentially gotten more provocative, so to speak, at this level, and just the impact that you have and the exposure you have is so much more than we ever had when we were growing up. And it is taking a huge toll, I think, on students to include the social emotional piece, but it definitely does inhibit education, and I think it really is changing our society in general. And that's my big concern, and that probably has also led to some of our decisions with the cell phones, because it is difficult to monitor that. And so much of that autonomy is being placed on you guys to make good decisions, because everybody has a cell phone now, and you have access to so much just right at your fingertips that it really is scary.
Any other question? Yes, ma'am.
So, I know that Blue Oval has been talked a lot, and so I was wondering, like, it's been projected that Blue Oval is supposed to bring in, like, tons of, like, people, and so with the population of, like, E-Town growing, is, like, school, like, systems gonna change any, like, any school will, like, change things differently, like rules, yeah, like districts and all that?
Oh, without a doubt. But it's not going to happen while you're in school, I don't believe, personally. I was in Georgetown in college when Toyota moved in. It didn't impact me, but the Georgetown that exists now, nothing like what I went to school on. It's going to have a huge impact on this community if they do anything like what they say they're going to do. But that's a prolonged process where as those families start to move in, and that grows, and then, so it, without a doubt, will have an impact on what we do and how we do it on every school system sitting at this table.
It will definitely have an impact, but the group sitting in this room right now, you all will have the greatest opportunities of any group when you finish your next stage of education. So if you're going to college, you're going to vocational, you will have more opportunities to remain in your community and make a significant amount of money because of your leadership skills, because of your problem-solving skills. That is what all these companies are saying they want, and not just Blue Oval. You got to know that all the feeder companies are coming for that. Restaurants will move in because, so whatever career pathway that you're interested in, you can stay or come back to this community and have multiple opportunities to be incredibly successful.
Thoughts on that? Do you have a question too? Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I have a question more specifically for Ms. Morgan. So obviously you're in charge of like a lot of individual schools and the high schools in particular. How do you cater, like there's obviously general rules for everybody, but how do you cater specifically to each high school, or do you find it like difficult sometimes to balance it?
No, actually, we're in a great place with our principals. Mr. Isaac spoke of this, and our principals really tried to be consistent. So right now, we are looking at cell phone usage to videotape students who didn't ask to be videotaped, who don't want to be videotaped, and then that is shot out within seconds of them videotaping. So our principals have been working together with our Director of Student Services to say we can't have students suspended for 10 days from this school and 1 day from here. So we really are working as a district to have those consistent policies. There are some things, each of our schools have their own dress code, but if you look, they are very, very similar. We don't want to, dictate this is what your school has to do, but there is the necessity of some consistency between those schools when it comes to different things like pep rallies. We were talking with Mr. Robbins. Wouldn't it be great if all three of our high schools had their pep rallies on the exact same day? And that way it would be really easy for Mr. Robbins to go, everybody leave on the buses now. But that just can't happen because that doesn't give the autonomy to the school. So we really focus on that. And I know Ms. Bush does that with Elizabethtown, and you all do it with Fort Knox, of even your elementary to middle to high school, you have to have some consistency there.
Yes, ma'am. Let's go.
This is less of a question and more of like a personal concern. Sometimes, not only in my school, I know there might be in other schools too, sometimes I notice that there's more focus on like discipline and things like that with students who aren't as successful as like us. Sometimes it feels like we don't have all the support that we need as successful students to continue being successful. Sometimes it gets overwhelming if we don't have that support in school. Is there like any focus or concern on helping students that are successful like us?
Yeah, I think that we all often, there's kind of this 80-20 rule of sense that like, this 20% group takes up 80% of your time. Good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it happens a lot, and I think it's something that we all think about to make sure, and it's not just that we're missing out necessarily on the upper 20, but sometimes it's also, you know, that middle 60 that sometimes gets left out because we're focusing so much on that lower 20 that, you know, might cause disruptions or do type of things. But as everyone kind of talked about before in this, is your all safety is number one. And so when we're dealing with some of those types of things, and we've got to create an environment that you're first safe, and then everything else can kind of start falling in place.
I think the discipline stuff grabs the headlines, and while it does take far more of our time than we want it to take, I think there's more out there than you realize. I mean, you're sitting at a place where this opportunity right here speaks to some of the things that are out there for you, and the extracurriculars, the co-curriculars. I think there's more there. And then I also think there's a flip side to that you all are getting to the age where you've got to be more proactive about looking for those opportunities and taking a hold of those opportunities yourself. Because another concern I have with what the teenager that we're facing today is, I think by and large society is not teaching you how to cope and manage for yourself, that we're doing too much. And we're not instilling in you the ability for you to do it for yourself and to take control. You're at that age. I mean, you're what, a year and a half from now, you're going to be at a place where most of you will go away to school, and you're going to be in total control. Are you ready for that?
I think for me, I think about putting in place systems. And so as a leader, you'll learn that if your team is very successful and has very defined roles, what you want to avoid is, that's not my job, okay? But if you define those and it's very clear, then it helps you manage those situations so you can look at that. And as you alluded to too, if you have good ideas, feel very comfortable about approaching your leadership. And as a leader, what I'll say a lot of times to students when they come to me or email me is, okay, this is a problem or this is something you want to do, how can we make that happen? So it's not just us, you want to do this, here's what we're going to do. It's what ideas do you have, and then we work together to try to make that happen. So that's just two kind of leadership things that I kind of think of that help manage those, like you said, the safety issues, the problems, so that you can free up other individuals to support you all and all the students. What's next? Yes, sir.
So what are things that you guys feel that we as students can do to help improve our schools and districts and stuff?
Great question.
I think what you're doing right now, opportunities like this, taking advantage of it. I wish more students would do things like this. And then also, I would like to see more students, if you see something, say something, Your peers will respond to you all way better than they respond to us. So having a classmate tell you to stop doing something, I think is probably more impactful than having me correct behavior. To kind of piggyback off what you were saying earlier, I wish more students would do that and not worry about what people are going to say about them. If, oh, that's the person that told me to be quiet, I think that's kind of frowned upon. I just wish more students would do stuff like that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think, you all are an opportunity to be bold sometimes, and I know that it's not always necessarily maybe the cool thing to do, or maybe even sometimes you feel safe in doing that, but how cool would it be if you see a kid being picked on that 4 or 5 people stood up and just said, leave them alone? I think it's those types of opportunities that I think when kids do that you take ownership back in it, and that's our community, that's our people, and we're not going to allow stuff like that to happen. And so you see something, say something. So, and if you don't feel bold enough to say something to that person, then find somebody that is. And pull the people in to make it happen. But you all are influential, whether you want to be or not, right? You all have that. People say it all the time, I didn't want to be a leader. Well, you're born with it, so you got to kind of hone in on it a little bit. And so, because people look up to you, and so find ways to make it work.
For me, I think being a leader is by your actions. And so you mentioned the cell phone, and you mentioned maybe dress code. Those are kind of the hot points. As leaders, people watch you. And if the dress code says this and you don't do it, or the cell phone says this and you don't do it, they're watching. And if you can't do it, then why this person can't do it? So you've got to make a choice. If you're going to be a leader, you need to do what you're supposed to do, okay? And I'm not being hardcore, I'm just saying, this is one thing that you can take back, and I'm gonna lead by my actions. Also speaking out when things are happening, and there's certain ways you do that, but also by your actions, because people are watching you. And I think you'll sit back and think to yourself, with the cell phone, with the dress code, whatever, have I done what I've been asked to do over the past week? You can answer that. I'm not asking you to answer it to me, but you can answer that. And that's one little thing you can do, and if you do it, then somebody else does it, then it spreads, and then that just makes it a better place for everybody, wherever you are. So that's just something that comes to mind about what I wish, want kids to do.
Not only in your school, but in the community. I think, our kids, in all the schools are looked at throughout the community, situations, could be a ball game, us against E-Town, John Hardin against E-Town, and how you act at a particular ball game. There's community people that are there, and they're seeing how you're representing your individual school, and I think that's important.
I would encourage you all to ask questions, constantly ask questions, even of situations of bullying. So why are you doing that? What's up with that? You don't have to accuse them of anything, but ask questions. When you see things on social media, how do you know that to be true? What's the other side of this story? There has to be a separate side. There's always two sides to a story. What's the other side of this? Instead of going, man, I would hate that. That's just wrong. Do you know the other side to know how wrong that was? So as you go out, don't just take one person's word for it. You remember reading Rainbow, it said, you don't have to take my word for it. Well, don't take someone's word for it just because they said that. Start asking those questions in situations. Maybe as kids you were told, don't question me, but that's there. I'm going to ask Mr. Isaac, I'm going to put him on the spot for parents, because Mr. Isaac, you have a really good thought about what parents need to do to help their students prepare for the future, with what their role should be as far as being friends or not being friends and those type things.
Thank you for that, boss. It is it's a difficult water to navigate right now, because I get frustrated because I want your parents to push harder and to not be as worried about whether that you like what they're doing or not. And I realize I'm old, but I don't remember adults caring whether what I thought about what they were doing. They just did what they thought was in my best interest. But we got to get back to equipping you, and sometimes that means making the unpopular decision and pushing you to what you're capable of. And sometimes, it's the nature of the beast that you're not going to want to always do that, because it's not always comfortable. Just like that wasn't very comfortable right there, but she's the boss, so she gets to say that.
I just think it's a really valid point that.
Yeah. I mean, I come back to it. We do too much for you. And I'm a father. I do it. I've got a 23 and a 26-year-old, and there are still times that I go and do it for them rather than teach them how to do it for themselves. At what point are they going to learn it then? Because the reality is, how does the world work? Eventually, I'm going to die, and have I taught them how to do it when I'm gone? And I was blessed that I had adults that said, no, we're going to teach you how to do it so that you can do it for yourself when there's nobody else around to do it. And we got to get back to that, because we're doing you a disservice by sometimes not saying, no, this is on you. I'll be there for you. I'll pick you up if you fall down, but I'm going to teach you how to do it, and then you're going to be responsible for it.
Thank you.
So I don't know if you have education backgrounds, but now I'm administrators. Is there anything that sort of spurred you to make that move to
Good question.
position?
Yeah, because when I started in this, I'd have laughed at you if you said I was going to run a high school. Oh my gosh. I wanted to coach. That's what I wanted to do. But I'm a firm believer, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And the door just opened at the right time. where an administrator came to me and said, I really think you could do some good here. And my goal personally has always been, I wanted to work with teenagers, and my content was my way to do it. So I really think I'm more effective in the office than I was in the classroom, because I probably never pushed my content like I should have. I was much more concerned with building relationships, helping equip. Now, I wanted kids to be successful, but I think I really am better equipped in this way to do what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, you know, I ended up in this profession, I think was just kind of something that opened up, and I thought, oh, that's probably a good idea for me to do. As far as being an administrator, I never had no aspirations whatsoever to be an administrator. I got in to teach, and I thought I would coach, and I thought it's a great way. I loved working with kids. But I definitely, found the opportunity that, because I was a good teacher, I would never have said that I was a great teacher, and maybe there have been some of my students say you were an okay teacher, not even really good. But I think I really do feel like I was really good at my relationships with my students. And because of those relationships with my students, I think that I could get them to do things that they may not have been comfortable doing and to push themselves. So in some of these funny situations, I think that I found it a way that maybe I could affect more people with that ability to build relationships in the position that I'm in now. And so I'm very blessed to say that I love what I do, and I get to work with kids all across this district, and we're going to learn something, and we're going to have a good time along the way. So.
And I'll say what he has said as far as with each move, you are able to make a difference with more people. And so like when I was in the classroom, I had 25 kids. My focus was making a difference for those 25 students and their parents. Then when I moved to a principal administration role, so that was the thing. Now I have 500 students. So now I have the opportunity to touch and make a difference. So with each step beyond, now up to superintendent, I have 2,500. You have how many?
14,000.
So, with each step, there's more and more responsibility, but at the same time, there's more and more reward in that you're working for more people and you're able to make a difference with a greater number of people. So that was really my driving point to start making that transition.
And Mr. Elmore will always be Mr. Elmore. He'll always be, 20 years after he's retired, he's still going to be, in somebody's eye, the principal at Etown High School, right? Mrs. Morgan is still going to be a superintendent of Hardin County Schools even when she's retired. People see Mrs. Johnston. Oh, there's Mrs. Johnston, that's the superintendent. And they're going to say the same thing about Mrs. Morgan and Mrs. Bush. Hey, that's the superintendent. They're always going to be that way. So, that they have, the onus is on them really to be a leader even after they retire, because they're always going to be that. They're always going to be that person. No pressure, guys.
I was going to say, just like totally.
No pressure. No pressure. Yes, ma'am.
So I know we were talking about mental health earlier, and I'm always doing mental health myself at school. We're trying to do all these things. But I find that the arts and music and performing arts has really helped me. So how are you guys supporting the arts and the performing arts in different places?
That's a good question.
I think we're blessed in Hardin County now. I think one of the missing pieces is there's not an orchestra. You got to go to Louisville, pretty much. And that's one of our missing pieces. But the opportunity to be involved in Hardin County as a whole in the performing arts is as strong. You can't find better unless you're going to Louisville. And even then, things like not just what we're offering to the schools, but what we offer through Hardin County Youth Theater and those things. Some of those opportunities aren't even really there for as many as they can touch here. And I'm a performer. I love being involved in the arts, and I do think it's a huge part of, it really can be a connection in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. Touch so many different facets of life. But we always, unfortunately, come back to the money and what you can afford and what you can provide. And sometimes decisions just have to be made. Where can you get the most bang for your buck? because sustaining the arts is not cheap. Getting some of the equipment you need in that marching band. I keep a wish list from your director all the time, and I mean, he'd spend $40,000 tomorrow, and I'm not kidding. Just getting some of the bigger instruments that you could never ask a kid's family to pay for. So it's difficult to maintain, but I think we're incredibly blessed in this county. I was just talking to Mr. Lovins the other day what the play is going to be next year and trying to decide whether I want to audition or not.
Specifically for E-Town, and I'll give Ms. Bush some kudos, we've been really focused on that and actually going to continue on that. For us, the challenge is our current schedule, 6 periods a day, and so we're actually having conversations, and the students may not know about, are we going to do a trimester, are we going to do a 7-period day, because we want y'all to have those opportunities. Kate, you've been in plays, right? After school, you know, is there some way we can leverage and have a theater and have drama and have some of those things and build those programs? And I'll have to say Ms. Bush is supportive of that. One focus really has been band this past year. Mr. Cantrell came to us with some needs, and as all the administrators and superintendents here want to do, we want to say yes, and we try to make those opportunities happen, because I'm very passionate about any club, any organization that a student wants to be involved with. If it gives them a sense of belonging, we need to try to make that happen for them, and I'm sure everybody feels the same way. Because if you do that, then that creates that sense of community. So for us, I guess that's been a focus, and some of that focus in our strategic plan coming up possibly may focus on those areas too as well. So that's something at E-Town we're very focused on over the next 2 to 4 years.
Yes, ma'am.
At Hardin County, we have a lot of opportunities to get ready for a career and things, but how do you use your leadership status and your image, I guess, to impact students and make sure they get down the right path and succeed?
Question.
So with Hardin County, we are really trying to increase our internships, our co-op experiences for students. And so we use our positions to go out and we meet people, we go to FAME, we go to industry and say, you know, we have great students here. If you will give them the opportunity to come in and work with you in your engineering firm or at the hospital, we promise you you will be very pleased with the students that are sent there. So I think that's the way we try to use our position, is to give you all opportunities by doing that now and making those introductions in your community right now. And I'll let Ms. Bush speak to that.
And I'll just kind of flip on that too, as far as a leader, you can't just go in and ask, which is not what we've done. You have to listen. So a lot of hours conversations are going out into the community at industrial foundations, Rotary, Hardin County Chamber luncheons, all of those type things, and really, excuse me, talking to people, what is it that you need our students to possess and have when they graduate? And that's a huge part of it. And I think as leaders, as you grow in that leadership capacity, that's a really good point to always remember. That listening, you learn as much and can guide you as much as anything, is just listening to others. And I would say we've done a lot of listening in the last year and a half from Ford. And we're getting there, but that's the thing that I would emphasize that goes along with what Ms. Morgan said.
Any questions? We've got lots of time. Yes, ma'am.
Going along with that, how have you guys noticed the increasing competitiveness to get into colleges, and what have you done to accommodate those students?
Well, I think what we try to do is always to help our students to find ways to make them glow a little bit, you know, whether it's opportunities for internship, whether it's the dual credit opportunities, any other leadership opportunities. You know, you all, when you apply for schools, you know, you kind of apply as a name and maybe your ACT score, and then, you know, that what else? So, you know, what sets you apart? And so I think that for us, we want to make sure that we try to provide as many opportunities as possible. Now, you all have to go out and get them, but once we provide those, for you to all to go tackle them and then just build your own academic resume. Like what's going to help you set apart from one kid to the other that they want you at their school, and that they want to then, put, some scholarship money or something like that to you. So it's just being able to provide opportunities for then you all just to shine.
I think it too, in Hardin County with the academy that we have, from a parent's perspective, my son was in the academy and he was able to, as a junior and senior in high school, to kind of get what college was really like, because he had freedom that he didn't have in high school. There were times that, he might have a couple hours here and you'd be like, are you going to study there? Or are you going to just sit back and not, do anything? So that kind of helps, I think, the students kind of get a feel of what college is like, where they want to go. I know the academy has opportunity. They do visits. They've gone to different schools, and he really enjoyed that and found, what his niche was. And I think that's huge for us.
And I'll speak for Dodea. I know that, because at Fort Knox Middle High School, we're a much smaller school system, and it's hard to compete to some of the things that you guys have discussed. It makes me want to go to Hardin County and be a student. All the opportunities you guys have available. But I know with Dodea, our focus is college and career ready, because we have college and career ready standards, and there's been a huge focus on really looking at preparing our students for the next step, whether it be college or whether it be some other pathway. And so one of the things that we have been doing this year is trying to provide more opportunities with regards to like dual enrollment. We've partnered with HCEC-TV. We've sat in many meetings with them trying to create a dual enrollment opportunity, as well as really trying to push our AP and provide more AP opportunities as well, and to be somewhat competitive with the schools on outside the gates, so to speak. We've had college night that we've had this year. I know Ms. Prather has worked really hard in planning field trips to take groups of students to colleges and try to expose them to opportunities beyond college. So, it is a focus for us for sure, but I think, some of the advice that others have given you, really, it's up to you guys to take advantage of those opportunities and really kind of advocate for yourself and seek those opportunities out. I know that we always post the scholarships that come down the pike. We've got those always posted around the school, and just really be aware and apply for everything that you see, and, kind of take that onus on yourself.
I think the important thing you need to know is that colleges are looking beyond grades and ACT. They want to see how you have taken advantage of leadership opportunities, of performing arts opportunities, to community service opportunities. So just being part of junior leadership is something you can put on your resume, that you were selected to do this. So keep in mind all of those outside of school opportunities, and it may be from your church, it may be through Feeding America, any type of those things that you can do to promote yourself above someone else. Your greatest competition is probably sitting in this room with you, right next to you. What are you going to do to go, okay, I've done this, and now I need to do this? So when you start seeing people recognized, what can you do to level that playing field by putting yourself out there and achieving the next level of greatness? Is it getting your Eagle Scout badge? What can you do to put yourself in a better position?
Yes, ma'am. So I know that it's becoming increasingly more poignant, but how are you tackling vaping and drug usage in schools?
Well, I will just share with you, last night I typed an email to our legislators from this area, letting them know I don't think vape should be available when you turn 18. I think it should be 21. And you can't buy alcohol before 21. Vapes, while you are able to get a vape that has THC in it legally at the age of 18 in any store, is absolutely ridiculous, and I think that is something they can control. And we also need our parents to help us with this, to say it's not healthy, and starting to educate individuals. So that's what I think we need everybody here to do. I'm going to encourage our students to do that. I have a student advisory council. I'm going to be asking them to take that leadership step to reach out to the legislators, because how many of you would say vaping is not a problem? There you go. So that's where we're going to need you all to step up and start helping with that.
Well, and I think, I'm going to tell my age here a little bit, but, you know, when I was in high school, like the generation before, it was about smoking cigarettes. And in my generation, it became smoking was not cool. Like, it was not cool at all. And starting to wear your seatbelt was cool, you know? So I agree with the education part. I think so many of your classmates and counterparts, they really don't understand what they're putting in their body and the health ramifications that they very well could have. And I think, you know, many of you know that, but a lot of your counterparts don't. And then I think it's just that, you know, we talk about leadership and, you know, with your actions, you all as leaders not vaping and being that model and really kind of voicing it, you know, that's not cool at all, you know, or not whatever words you all use at this point. Cool was ours, you know. So, but I think that there will just have to be a shift in the mindset of your generation coming through. And I think that does take a lot of education, a lot of positive peer pressure.
Yes, ma'am.
So Mr. Robbins gave us an opportunity to go out for like a week and volunteer and like shadow like maybe future careers we want. So I was wondering if there was like a way we can like have volunteer work and like have more opportunities to like do that like within our school, within schools, not just our school.
Prior to COVID, North Hardin had a day of service where we would have, and we had buses, we provided transportation, we would allow students to sign up for various things. So we're hoping to bring that back this year. COVID kind of crushed a lot of that kind of stuff, so we're really hoping to bring it back this year.
It's been a discussion for us. I don't know that we have come up with an answer of how to do it. But, you know, one piece of the strategic plan that we've been working on, which is really, you know, what do we want our school district to be moving forward the next 4 or 5 years? And something that's very important to us is stewardship. And we've even put a core value in now that it's value stewardship. And so we've talked a lot in particular about seniors and how can we give those opportunities to seniors to be able to go out and volunteer and give of their time and talent. And so I don't know that we have the answer yet, but I agree with you, and I think it's just going to be us thinking outside the box of what does a school day look like for our kids. If you go back 20 years, the concept of EC3 would have been foreign, you know, but you had people who visualized that, leaders who visualized that, wow, look at what this could do for our students and for our community, and then they made it happen. And so I think that's where some of these things are. It's we visualize it, we see the need, and how do we make that happen? We might have to think differently about what your school day looks like.
What else? Yes, ma'am.
This just reminded me, you talked about how he was bringing back something from COVID. How are you like working to bring back like school spirit, school pride, like and like involvement in school, I guess, like at home high schools for any high school?
It's, you know, COVID kind of smacked us down a little bit. What we've tried to do, like all students are in free for all home games. You know, that's something we've tried the last couple of years just to get, you know, more students involved. You know, the price has gone up, so we feel like, you know, you come to the game, show your ID, you know, you come in. So that's kind of what we're trying to do, is just to get more kids there to provide that. Because, you know, when you're in a packed gym, it's a lot different than when you're school spirit and you're just kind of, the place is empty and you hear everybody talking, you know, and that's sometimes that's the way it is. And so we got together and decided that if we allowed that, and you know, you take a hit revenue-wise because you're losing that money, but we thought it was important enough to to get more kids at ball games to do that.
I think you have to keep in mind you all have so many more options than what we ever had. I think basketball, football, track, tennis was about it, and now you have lacrosse, now you have robotics, you have choir, you have beta, all of these other options. And so you want to make sure you're not just honing in on the two big sports, which we consider basketball and football, because there's all these other things going on, and just trying to equalize that attention for those is really important.
Yes, ma'am.
I know recently you guys sent out an email about updating their fight policy. Why do you think there's a big increase in fights?
Because y'all don't disconnect anymore. You don't. I mean, you carry problems in the door. When I was growing up, if I had a problem with somebody, I had to look them in the eye, and y'all don't have to do that. You can. So you're carrying things with you. You don't ever. We had an English class do an experiment first trimester, where they simply just counted notifications during the hour they were in class. And a single class of 32 kids had 600 notifications within the hour. All right, you're always plugged in, you're always on, and there's always somebody saying something. And what amazes me is how incredibly tolerant y'all can be sometimes, and yet so incredibly mean and hateful, especially online. And so when do you ever get away from it? It's always there, it's always in your face, it's always, when do you disconnect? And when can you deal with the fallout from somebody coming at you?
I'll just speak from Mr. Elmore and I with this, but he can add on. I think it goes back to what I said earlier, and as far as the social media, but the last couple of years really multiplied the effect of social media with limited interactions that kids were able to have. And I think we see that as far as it's just, there is less skill for your peers to be able to work things out, you know, in a civil way, instead of just going straight to, you know, a fight or an argument or push, shove, all that type of thing. And, you know, I think from the majority of what, you know, we have seen in at E-Town High School, it has been things that have happened outside, you know, and then are brought in. So I just think it goes back to society, social media, us interacting face-to-face less and less, and not really understanding how to deal with things as well as maybe we could. Anything to add to that?
Probably 90%, or like you said, social media or outside have been brought to school, and it kind of carries over. What I also feel is I can't be looked down upon if I don't do something for the situation we've dealt with. And again, it goes back to safety. You know, when I have altercation occur and there's other kids and actually my staff involved, then that's a safety issue. And so I want Elizabethtown High School to be as safe as possible. When we talked about vapes, they did a great job discussing it, but it's educating. You know, we're going to have a fentanyl awareness day, I guess you would say it, for high school, middle, the PAC, and then we're going to have parents in, you know, because they don't know. And to be honest with you, we don't know. And over the past 2 years, it's a weekly dealing with it that we have. So consequences are one thing. You know, we can talk about, we up the consequences for those things. Has it helped squelch some? I do hopefully believe it has. But it's not just the consequences, especially with vaping. Some of the consequences is you've got to go through some counseling. And I think it's also having those very honest conversations that we had at our class meeting. If you have an addiction to something, reach out to anybody, any counselor, whatever, and we're not going to judge you, we're going to help you through that. And that's part of it. And just that day alone, after we had that very candid conversation, there were 6 contacts at our guidance office to where we can provide support to you all, because it's tough being a teenager. And I've got 2 boys at home, and it's very tough. I've got a sophomore and an 8th grader. And so that was our feeling at the time, and while we upped it, we responded to something that we saw, because it was 300% what we were seeing last year. that's a warning sign. And now we've got to go deeper into the community and into the families and figure out how we can make things better or assist everybody through that process.
So I'm going to tack on to some things that were said too, because we have some of those concerns at Fort Knox as well. But it's interesting how everything kind of just relates that we're talking about, because one of the things I've noticed with fights at our school or any of that kind of behavior is the fact that, it goes back to social media and the phones. Is I think one of the reasons that, there might be an uptick in these sorts of behaviors is the fact that it goes back to be what's considered cool. And now that with the phones, even though we do have the cell phone policy and not everybody adheres to it, anytime there is an interaction like that, it is always posted. Whether, people are supposed to have their phones or not, someone's videotaping it, it gets uploaded to social media, and then everybody is seeing it exponentially. And I know that there are, platforms out there that, and I'm pretty sure there's a Fort Knox one, that Fort Knox Fights is called. And that anything that happens at Fort Knox, it has been uploaded to that site. And I'm sure it's not just Fort Knox, that's just one that I know is brought to my attention.
Every school.
So it's become like something cool to do, and when, again, the question that was asked, what can we do to make a difference? It starts with you guys. When that stops being cool and people stop doing those things, then there's not an audience for it.
That's what I was going to share. You all have to quit popularizing it. And I would dare to say that most people in this room have either liked or forwarded or shared. So think what would happen if you deleted it immediately and you didn't share it with another single person. How many people in this room could prevent that from moving forward? So when it quits becoming popular and you make it what it is, which is unthinkable, unspeakable, unacceptable, then we will start to see a downward trend. But you all have to, and when I say you all, it's you times everybody else who's not in this room, quit popularizing it. Don't spread it. Delete it immediately. Don't share it to the person next to you.
And that's the world we live in. For example, when we post on our Facebook page that we are not having school on a certain day because of snow, for example. All right. So when we post on our social media, when I get off the phone with Ms. Morgan at 5:15 or 5 o'clock, somewhere in there, and she's all full of them and bigger, and I'm just like, oh, you're so. So she's all, because she's been up for 2 hours. So when I post that says Hardin County Schools is not having school today because of bad weather, by 6 a.m. on most times, that has 400 likes. 400 by 6 a.m. I posted a little bit before lunch that we are having a fentanyl awareness seminar. You can register for it. It's online. All you have to do is register for it, et cetera. That's been posted for now almost 3 hours. It's gotten 4 likes. You see what I'm saying? What are we drawn to? And how many likes would a HCS Fights or a Fort Knox Fights or a EIS Fight, how many likes would that have? A bunch. But we're posting stuff about solutions, and it's not that popular. So you all need to be the agent of change, I think is what I'm hearing from this group. Be the agent of change. I'm not saying go out and like my post about fentanyl. That'd be cool. But
reshare.
Right. But what I'm saying is be the agent of change. Don't post that Fort Knox Fights, because what's that lead to? Somebody and another fight.
A lot of fights too at high school. I'll take a quote from a friend of mine. One of them's scared and the other's glad of it. Because they're sitting there wanting the fight to get broke up, but they can save face. If you really want to fight somebody and you're after that person, you're going to say, meet me down at this place where nobody can. But you fight at school, a lot of times if you look, fights that happen at school, where do they happen? Right in the middle of the hallway where there's like 15 teachers there are going to break it up. Because then they save face with each other and they're like, hey, I did what I was supposed to do, but it got broken up, So that to me has been way more rampant. Like, and when I get in the office, they'll tell you that, I've even had them say, well, I knew somebody break it up. And you're like, okay.
What other questions do you all have? We have about 10 minutes left. Yes, ma'am.
I just have one. So as someone who goes to Fort Knox and we are a middle high, do you ever think age plays into it? Because I know as a student, I'm a junior and I'm
in the hallways with like 7th and 8th graders, do you ever see that as like an issue, as like our behavior could affect them because we're so much older and we know more things and they think they can do that?
So that's a good question. I do think that, again, you guys are role models for what they want to do and become. We try to separate our middle schoolers, and that's why they're upstairs in their own little section, but it's not completely exclusive, and they do their best to get out with the high schoolers. I do think it influences their behavior. I mean, I hope it's not the other way around, but I do know definitively that, you'll see, and there's a group of them that any chance they get, they're, in the hubs and walking around the circle and trying to be with all the older kids. I do think that does have an impact, but to be quite honest with you, collectively, the stuff that we see in middle school, I don't think that's the core of the bigger concerns that we have. I think there's other issues there, but I definitely don't dismiss the point that you're making, that it definitely does carry over. You guys are role models for those up and coming younger classmen, for sure.
Anybody else? There's one back here. Oh, yes, ma'am.
What do you think are the most valuable qualities or actions taken by students that you've seen become very successful in the past?
Great question.
For some of our educated risk takers, they are willing to take risks, go beyond their comfort level, to try things and be okay if it fails, and willingness to try again. So it comes to that grit. Not everybody here at this table was successful the first time they went out, but they didn't say, well, never again. They stepped right back in. So if you can have grit and take educated risk, I think you could be incredibly successful.
Variety of experiences, putting yourself in many different environments, see what's out there, see what works for you and what doesn't work for you as early as you can, so that you're just at a better place and have a better foundation to build on.
Yeah, I know you all heard it numerous times, and I'm not trying to be cliche in it, but it is 100%. Work ethic really matters. I mean, again, talk about myself, not the smartest person ever, but I always tried to work hard. And I think that if you all put yourself in a situation and say, I may not be the smartest, I may not be the fastest, whatever it is, but I'm willing to put the work in, that I think that you can find that you will reach the goals you want if you're willing to work for it. And I think that is a quality that is, it's not found as well. I mean, we might award a lot of kids with work ethic certification, those all things, but I think we know truly the ones that are going to work hard and put it in and have the grit and do all that type of stuff. And so I think that's a quality that, it's not necessarily developed in a gym. I think about an athletic sense. It's something that just, you just do it.
As you mentioned perseverance, you kind of alluded to that. So persevere. I think about one student who works at the hospital now, and just a recent conversation with him and about how one subject was difficult. When I had him in class, he struggled through that, as you mentioned, and now he's very successful. And then also for me is it's okay to fail. Sometimes we think you got to get everything right, it's got to be perfect, but that productive struggle through that process, and realize that as a leader, that sometimes you may try something and it's okay to say, that wasn't really good. And then you adjust and change what that is, okay? So it's okay to fail, and sometimes we have a difficulty in saying that, but it's okay to. But do you learn from that, and do you move forward from it? And as you go higher up, you've got to be extra cautious of that failure, what it might look like. And that's why you rely on the other people around you too.
And I would like to add one more thing that's very important, are building a network. Really start building those relationships now. It's never too early, and really establish your network, because, there's all sorts of variables involved, but if you don't have those connections, that is key to success. And really anybody you encounter, look at that as a possible connection in the future, because how you present yourself, you just never know. At some point, that person might be instrumental in your next step to what you need to be. So in every class that you're in, every teacher, every leader that you come across, and even your peers, You know, 5-10 years from now, you just never know who you might run into, who might, you know, hey, I remember that person. This is how I remember them. So every way that you present yourself will come back at some point and be an asset or a deficit. So just keep that in mind.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
So
Last
kind
question.
of how, like Sophia touched on earlier, a lot of you all had education backgrounds before you went into administration. How do you feel like the relationships with students changed when you went to an administrative role? Like, was it more of a positive or a negative?
As an assistant principal, I have the opportunity to really sit down and talk to students when they make mistakes sometimes. As a teacher, you don't have that opportunity because there are 35 other kids in the class. So as an administrator, you really get that one-on-one. You get to sit down and actually talk and listen to students that you don't, unfortunately, always get to do as a teacher. So I enjoy that part of my job.
For me, it was even much different than that. For me, it was a separation. As I was assistant principal, it was a different type of interaction and communication. And then I made the step to principal, it was even a different interaction because I do thrive on relationships, interaction, having been a 6th grade teacher, 7th, 8th, 9th, all the way up, and then also been a coach. That's really what I thrive on. And so for me, it was a different type and coming to reality of, like I said, being intentional about those conversations with students and having those conversations, not just about negative things, but about positive meetings with them and so forth.
Anything else? I want to tell one story, talking about work ethic. Since I moderated, I get to end. So my friend Kyle Johnston is the head trainer for the Miami Dolphins. Okay, he's a North Hardin High School graduate. Kyle told me one time he wanted to get into sports management, physical, be a sports trainer. He goes to UK as a freshman at the University of Kentucky. Gets involved with the football program and just wants to hang out within the football program in sports medicine. Just wants to hang out because he knows he wants to build his network, right? Like Ms. Limerow said, he wants to build his network. So as a freshman, the head trainer at University of Kentucky football said, "Well, Kyle, the only thing I know to tell you to do is to fill that paper towel box every day. That's your job. You fill that every day." And so even as he worked his way up to become a student intern with the training program, he still filled the paper towel box outside of the restroom every day. For 4 years, he filled that every day. And he said, in the last part of my senior year, I got really mad because nobody ever thanked me for filling the paper towel box. Nobody ever said, "Hey, thanks, Kyle, for doing that every day." And he said, one day just kind of hit me. But then I got over it. Went to other internships. He did work for the University of Florida, did work for, in an internship with another NFL team, and then he got to be the head trainer at the University of Louisville. Applied and was the head football trainer at the University of Louisville. He was less than 30 years old and a great early success story. So when he called his mentor, the head trainer at UK, who was now retired, he said, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so, just wanted to call and tell you I got the U of L job." "That's great, Kyle. I'm so proud of you." And he said, we laughed and we cried and we laughed and we cried. And he said, "Well, Mr. So-and-so, hey, I got to get off the phone." And he said, "Hey, Kyle, thanks for filling up the paper towel box." So he said, "Why are you telling me that now?" And he said, "Because I knew I would have the opportunity to tell you that, because I knew you'd make it big." So what I'm saying to you is, I think what all these folks are saying to you is, thanks for filling up the paper towel box. Thanks for filling up yourself so that you will one day have the opportunity to come back and tell Mr. Elmore, Ms. Morgan, Mr. Wilkerson, "Hey, I'm doing what I'm doing and successful at it because you invested in me." All right, so these folks, they love you. They really do. They may not show it all the time, and you may not always show them, but they really do love you. And they're doing this because nobody at this table is getting rich. Is that a fair statement? I don't think anybody sitting up here is a millionaire. So you're going to make a lot more money than these folks are one day.
They're doing this because they love you. All right? All right. I didn't say that to the staff.